You ever wonder where bass go when they're not on the bank, but you can't find them in those winter holes sucked down to the bottom in deep water like we were talking about a week or two ago? Well, today we're gonna be talking about where bass go next when they're not in their deep winter holes and when they're not on the bank eating, jerk bait, crankbait, chatterbait, all the things that we've been seeing on the live tournament fishing lately. And we're going to figure out how to find the bass when they're not in their winter holes and they're not on the bank. They got to be somewhere, and they're hard to find sometimes, but that's what we're talking about today: finding bass when they're not in their winter holes and they're not on the bank. Very early pre-spawn patterns, or I guess you could call it a pattern. Late winter to early pre-spawn transition, where do bass go? That's what we're talking about today. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. We're getting close to the 1,000 subscriber mark. I think we're at 930 or something like that. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed so far. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Got some stacked up on the bottom pretty good right there. Let's see if there's any big ones. It's a good one. There we go. Hooked up on the swim bait. When you've been catching them deep and the water gets stained, sometimes you gotta change it up and find something different that the fish can find easier. A nice largemouth. Starting it off pretty quick there. But you're gonna have to have something with a little more size, or puts off a little more presence in the water so they can find it. And doesn't have to be totally real looking when the water's dirty, because well, they can't see it as well. But good way to start off right there. There's a good one on the mooch. They're scattered, I'll tell you that. I don't so pale, I can't even tell what it is. Nice one. Alright guys, so kind of what we're talking about today. Let me get the camera down here at the screen. In the video a couple weeks ago, we're talking about catching them deep in their winter patterns down in the 30-foot range. When it starts to heat up, we've got the first warming trend of the year, like the first real warming trend. It's still getting kind of cold at night, but the water temperatures come up significantly. It's well up into the 40s, and it's only been a week or two, but when they start to move up, they find a piece of cover that they can relate to a lot of the time, and you can start finding bass on things like brush, offshore brush. This is 15 to 20 foot deep, so it's basically the next place up from the drop off or their deep wintering holes. And a lot of the time they're lethargic. When you catch them, you'll see that they're really pale in color, and that's just because they've been down in that deep water, and we've had a bunch of rain here, so the water's been stained up for probably about a week now. But that's going to be one of the next places they go, and you're just going to have to experiment. There's a few still in that piece of brush that we caught that one out of. You're just going to have to play around and see what kind of bait they're going to want to eat. We're still slinging the mooch minnow around just because that's what I've got tied on. Been trying some other things, dice, jerk bait, swim bait. Caught one earlier on a swim bait. But basically what they're doing now this time of year, they're just stepping up. They're basically coming up the stairs to that next pre-spawn position, and it's kind of crazy because it's almost like it's, I know the bass can't count, but it's almost like it's in 5 or 10 foot increments. We were in 25 to 30. Now we're in 15 to 20. Some of them are a little deeper still, but had to poke around to find some fish to catch today to make this video. But this is where they happen to be, and in lakes like this, a lot of the time, a lot of the year, the fish stay in brush, and it's just going to be brush in different depths. So after they get done on these deeper piles, they're going to move gradually, just work their way up to shallower piles. Unless they're feeding, obviously they're going to be chasing bait around. Hadn't seen a lot of fish. I've seen a couple fish on schools of bait, but I hadn't seen a lot of bait today. But they're going to hold in these positions and wait for an easy meal to come by, and that's when you can kind of take advantage of them. Obviously these fish are not super active, but I must have casted at them about, I don't know, 15 times before I got one to bite. But some of them, they're just not even seeing it just because the water's stained. And you can use a swim bait or something to catch the fish when they're a little more active in the stained water. But these fish are not active at all today. They're just kind of, or not in this section of the lake. They're just kind of in one of those lazy, leave me alone kind of moods, like they are so often at this particular lake. But that's a good example of what happens next after the deep winter bite. It starts to kind of dwindle out. You know, you'll stop seeing them as deep, but they basically just walk up the hill, and you just move to the next step. And you know, this time of year things change fast, so they might be somewhere else tomorrow. Like it can change daily. You just have to go around and see where the fish are moving to. We got a boat getting ready to run right on top of us here. I don't know what that's about, but basically that's kind of the deal this time of year. Let's see if we can get another one of these to bite. This boat actually might get these fish to wake up a little bit. Let's see here. So basically you're just following them up the hill, and they're going to stay. They may move in and out, but another reason these fish may have moved up into shallower water is because the water's stained. But it's pre-spawn time of year, so you're just going to have to look for them and find something that they want. This minnow is something that sinks fast enough that it doesn't take me 2 days, like throwing a dice or something down there, to sink down to them. But it's light enough to where I can kind of keep it in their face long enough to where they can eat it if they're not in the mood. But when they start feeding, it's a whole different story. It gets really easy. But when it's tough like this, you just have to kind of beat on their heads, reposition. I circled around. I started on the front side of that pile, and I had to circle around to the drop-off side of the pile in order to get one to bite. But that's the next place they go. They'll just get into some kind of offshore cover that's not as deep, closer to their spawning grounds, but still an area that they can easily feed. This is kind of around a main lake point area here, and it's basically, we're just moving with the fish. So if you're not scoping, you can do the same thing. You just grid out whatever point you're fishing and move on up. You can use swim baits, jerk bait, you can use all the things. You can use the minnow too if you want to, but they're basically just going up the hill from out there, the deep wintering holes, and more will get to be easily visible as the water warms and the season progresses. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. There we go. Had to reposition a little bit. Nice largemouth. Not bad. Nice one. Chill. Let's give him a second, buddy. Nice one.